So on count one, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of second-degree murder. On count two, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of dead bodies, disinterment, and mutilation.
Thank you. Please be seated.
After more than 20 years, Beverly McCallum was found guilty of her husband Robert's murder. So what evidence might have tipped the scales of justice in the case? Well, we have a very special guest joining us now. You just heard his voice announcing the jury's verdict. The jury foreman, Cory Sharrow, is joining us live this morning. Cory, good morning to you. Thank you for coming on the program today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Tell us, what was it like when you all retired to begin your deliberations? I'm curious, was everybody in agreement from the start, or did it take some work in the room?
We had a vast majority in agreement, but there was some people that wanted to talk some things through. I know I've heard a lot about it wasn't very long in that room. It felt like a very long time. We were discussing thoroughly that whole time, every question that anybody had. I made sure everybody voiced it. We all made sure each other voiced any opinions or any second questions we wanted to ask. Sure.
Cory, got to ask, what did you think of Beverly McCallum's time on the stand?
In my opinion, when I was sitting the seat closest to her, so when she kept turning to look and talk, most of the time I felt she was looking right at me, and I felt like it was a little uncomfortable for me at times, but I also felt that based on how she answered a lot of the questions and the way she deflected, I'd say most of the jury, I wouldn't put it on them, but I'd say most of us felt the same way, that we didn't trust hardly any of her responses based on what we were seeing as a jury.
I bet it was uncomfortable, her looking and staring. I could see just watching it from afar, the way she looked like she was really intent on making eye contact. Did you feel that way, like she was trying to hang on to eye contact with you and your fellow jurors as she was answering?
Yes, I do. I don't know if she was doing it to try to get sympathy or intimidate. I don't know what the purpose was, but I definitely noticed there was intent there to stare.
Right, made it awkward for sure. I want to play a clip for you, please, Cory. This is one from Beverly McCallum's cross-examination where she is denying murdering her husband. Let's watch.
You know he's dead because you were part of the people that helped kill him.
No,
that's why you didn't do nothing, correct?
I did not kill Robert, no. That's not correct, no.
You knew about the explosion and you knew how it felt because you were standing there watching it occur.
Absolutely not, no.
You were part of burning Robert's body.
No.
Cory, what were you thinking at that moment in time when she was giving those answers and all those denials?
I was trying to, I'm as a juror, I'm trying to be impartial, but at the same time, based on all the previous answers and the way she just, seemed to react almost unemotional to it. I believe the prosecutor's trying to get emotion out of her to get her to expose any truth that might be under there, but I still felt like it was an act at the time. That's what I saw, that's what I felt. Like I said, I can't speak for the other jurors, but that's how I was feeling at that time, that it was still an act, it was a quick deflection, that's what it felt like to me.
Right. Cory, we have so many more questions for you. We're nearing the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to ask you what you thought of Chris McMillan. We know he was certainly key to the state's case, witness number one and her co-defendant. And then, of course, we've got to talk about Beverly McCallum's daughter, Cicely. So I want to ask you about all of those things when we come back. Curious, was there anything she said that you found to be truthful?
Honestly, thinking back on it, I can only remember the things that I truly felt weren't truthful. So, only truth I think I heard was where they slept, in the house, stuff like that. How far down to the basement she would go when she would call him for dinner, that kind of thing. I don't think any of the actual important details of the case and the murder, I don't think she told the whole truth on any of it.
Right, I'm with you, Cory. I got a great question from our wonderful viewer, Adrian, who lives in Scotland. We have Court TV viewers all around the world. And Adrian asked a great question on X. She said, she wanted me to ask you, when Beverly McCallum did admit to hitting her husband, for you, was that a moment where she might have implicated herself in the homicide?
I believe so, yes. I believe, in my opinion, it was a poor attempt to cover up any part of the crime that she had, you know? And I felt like looking at the prosecutor's evidence that they brought, the autopsy, all that physical evidence on how this crime took place and how he ended up dying, it didn't fit, and it fit too conveniently her story that would not really implicate her, but still have her hitting him with something. So I felt that was just way too convenient.
Cory, something that Adrian wants to know, I want to know, and many other viewers were tweeting about this when we were watching her live on the stand. The accents that kind of kept coming and going, the different accents, was that troubling for the jury?
I found it more humorous than anything, especially watching the prosecutor get pretty annoyed with it, just because I was sitting next to her so I could hear everything she was saying. But yes, I was confused where the Italian accent came from, because us jurors had no idea she was ever in Italy. All we knew is that she had gone to Jamaica at one point, and Houston and Texas at one point. So I didn't know where an Italian accent came from, even. So yeah, I was a little shocked by that. I didn't have trouble hearing her, but it was definitely annoying and frustrating that she just wouldn't speak up unless somebody made her upset.
Sure. And Cory, you just raised something that's a really great teaching point. She was arrested in Italy. That's where she was arrested and picked up, and she was extradited to the United States to face these charges. And the jury can't know about that, because that would then create prejudice, that would then cloud your minds. You can't know about that. So that's great that you didn't, and it was confusing when she sounded like she spoke Italian. Cory, I've got a clip I want to play for you. This is from witness number 1, co-defendant Chris McMillan. Let's take a look.
Deneen and Beverly wanted to get rid of him because he was abusing the kids and Beverly physically, mentally, sexually. Deneen told me that Beverly wanted to knock him unconscious and suffocate him.
Okay, Cory, how did you and your fellow jurors feel about Mr. McMillan?
I know in that jury room when we were deliberating, McMillan's testimony was very important to us. A few of us, for sure, did not trust much of it because we understood why he was doing it, and we felt like there were some inconsistencies in his story that seemed like he was just trying not to make himself sound as involved as he was. But at the same time, we had to look at how his story lined up with that physical evidence that we were given by the prosecutor. And there was a lot of things that matched up. And while we feel he didn't tell us the whole truth, we felt like there was some there that we could sift out, and we felt like that was enough for us. But yeah, overall, he wasn't very trustworthy for us, but just enough in the important parts for us.
Mm-hmm. Fair to say, Cory, that you saw corroborating evidence come out after his testimony through the other witnesses and the pieces that were introduced later.
Yes, that's correct. Yep, the prosecutors did a great job. The doctors, all the expert witnesses, that stuff was very well handled.
Yeah, they sure did, Cory. I wanted to ask you about something that we spoke about many times on our air here at Court TV, and that is just the sheer brutality of this homicide. And we cover a lot of homicide cases, but when you think about just how bad one could get, this is it. I mean, this is really it. The hammer being used, the suffocation, the rope, the burning of the body. I mean, it's just dreadful. It's chilling when you think about it. And you and your fellow jurors had to see pieces of evidence that all of us in the public didn't have to see. What was that like, having to look at those very graphic photos?
It definitely was difficult. We were warned, obviously, during jury selection what we were going to see, but thinking you're going to see it and actually seeing it are two different things. And I had the trunk from the crime scene sitting in front of me the entire trial, sitting right there to look at, and then knowing what was in there, knowing what had happened, it definitely put a lot of weight on our decision. I felt like the brutality of it was something out of a movie. It wasn't something you ever think to see in real life or hear about even.
You're right, Cory. It really was like something out of a movie, yet this was reality for Rober Caraballo. And I was saying earlier on my show, what a beautiful, strong, smart, courageous young woman his daughter is. We know she's also the defendant's daughter, too. The victim and the defendant here in this case share a child, as you know. And you heard from Cicely Caraballo not once, but twice. Cory, tell us, please, what were the impressions that she left with you and your fellow jurors?
If I were going to say her testimony, more than anything, helped tip the scales for our decision. Cicely was extremely important. She gave so much key information that helped, paint the picture of her home life during this time and leading up to this time and after this time. And she was very brave, very strong for doing such a thing. It could not have been easy. I was sitting there right next to her pretty much as she had to give all these terrible details of her childhood and growing up. And, my heart went out for her. I felt terrible. But we had to look at it as well. She was 9 at the time. So, but we felt that the things that she could remember, we all remember huge events in our childhood, and I really felt that her memory and the questions they asked were about those huge events, not about, the little things that she might not remember. So we felt like her testimony was very important.
Cory, was it a moment for you when you heard her tell the story of when she was a young child and she's asleep in the van and she hears the big explosion and she sees her sister running and her mother just tells her, go back to sleep? We kept talking about how she must have struggled with that memory probably every day of her life, and then to share it with jurors that she doesn't know, in such a public forum that can be really intimidating, such as a courtroom. Was that a turning point? Was that a moment that might have tipped the scales for you?
Yes, and I have to be honest, when she told that, I was more horrified with the fact that when they were driving and those girls were asleep, that her dead father was right behind her in the back, and she was in the very back of that van. That horrified me almost more than any of it, the fact that she was right there asleep with his dead body right behind her in that trunk in the van. So I took the, what she actually witnessed with the explosion, and it took a lot for her to get up there, I'm sure, and I hope she never has to do anything like that again.
I know we can tell you wish her well. We certainly do as well, Cory. You're right, that had to have been so chilling for her to think back as an adult on what actually happened. What she knew at the time, of course, very different. And now, as you put it so poignantly, her father was killed in the worst way and is there in the van, and she's part of that transport. Oh, for the cover-up. When we think about the cover-up, that was largely part of how detectives were able to unravel this case, as you know, Cory. When we think about what might have precipitated this, there was a lot that was brought in. Beverly McCallum was trying to claim she was a victim and her children were victims and all sorts of things. Did motive, I'm curious, even though we know prosecutors don't have to prove motive, jurors don't have to decide motive, I'm curious if it came up in your jury deliberations.
Oh, yes, it did. Yep, and I actually think I was the one that brought it up, because to me, that's important when you're trying to decide if somebody's guilty of something like this. It's what's the true motive here. And I think we all kind of came to a conclusion that sometimes it's not one big thing. Everybody wants to think it's one big thing, it's one big trigger. Sometimes it's a bunch of little things. Sometimes it's, you know, in this case, it might have been that she didn't get the Robert out of prison who she thought she was going to get. And she wanted to go to Jamaica because she thought that would be better than the situation she was in here in Charlotte. It could be she thought she was going to have a husband and he ended up sleeping in the daughter's room and not wanting anything to do with her. So we think it likely it was a bunch of little things, but we thought we were given every option to consider for the motive, in my opinion, by the prosecution.
Did you all, I'm curious, ever agree on what you thought it was at the end of the day? Was there any agreement on that?
I'd say we all agreed that it was probably a combination of all those things, like I said. Definitely, as an adult, when you make major life decisions, like any of us do, obviously no, not all of us are going to commit murder, but when you make a big life decision, usually it's a bunch of little factors, not just one big thing. But I think the main thing was that we agreed that she didn't get the Robert out of prison who she thought she was going to get, and that wasn't what her plan was.
And when things didn't go according to plan, you think she was just sort of selfish?
Yep. I think she lived her whole life that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it sure seems that way. Cory, tell me what else you would like to share about this case that you found unique, stunning, interesting, anything else that's at the top of your mind this morning as we're going back through the deliberations and through the case evidence.
I just like to reiterate, like I said, that as a juror, I know that I'm my generation. When I was able to finally, I looked online and saw some of the reactions. Everybody said it was quick, the deliberation. In that jury room, that felt like forever. We were talking, we were thorough. We had so much, for how old this case was, it being a cold case, the amount of evidence that the prosecution was able to bring, the amount of experts they were able to bring, the whole uniqueness of the case. The prosecution, I felt, really laid it all out there and did well. Also, the defense did the best they could. They put up a fight. Like I said, it wasn't an immediate decision by us jurors. It took deliberation for sure, and that's credit to the defense as well. So, and those expert witnesses were great.
That's so nice of you to say that, Cory. You're right. Some really fine advocacy we saw in that courtroom from both sides. And what a fine job that you and your fellow jurors did. I have to tell you, you will likely get picked again in jury selection, Cory, especially when you let the attorneys know that you've served as a jury foreperson. They're going to say, oh, yes, we want this guy. You've been fantastic. Cory Sharrow, every good wish to you and all that you have going on in your life. Hopefully you can get back to normal after serving and performing your civic duty on this case. Take good care.